I believe your bookkeeper is actually more important than your accountant if you're a business owner. That's what we're going to talk about in today's episode of the Profit Pillar Show. I'm your host, Parker Stevenson, CEO of the accounting firm Evolve Finance and author of the book Profit Pillars. Now, when most business owners think about like who's the most important accounting professional that they're going to hire, they're going to think about their accountant. And obviously your accountant is really important because they're the ones filing your taxes on time and hopefully saving you some money on your tax bill along the way, and also keeping you out of debt with the IRS. I mean, in essence, hopefully keeping you out of jail by filing your taxes properly. And I think accountants also have fancier degrees. If your accountant is a CPA or an enrolled agent or an LLM/tax attorney, then yeah, there's a lot more schooling they have to do in order to get those qualifications than a bookkeeper typically would need to get. Now, those people could also do your books, but typically that's not going to be the case. There's not really any unified certification that every bookkeeper out there needs to get. So I think we commoditize bookkeeping. I mean, the entire accounting field is typically commoditized by small business owners because they're thinking, I just need to get this done. They're thinking about it from a just like, the government makes me do this, so I guess I should just get it done sort of standpoint, instead of thinking about it as a value add service. But bookkeepers get the brunt of that because a lot of business owners just go, bookkeeping's all the same. I'm going to try to get the cheapest bookkeeping I can and I'll be fine. But who manages your business's financials matters a lot because your accountant is only as good as the financial data they have to work from. So if you have a great accountant, but your books are a mess, a lot of the times your accountant's not even going to want to file your taxes. And most good accountants aren't going to accept a set of books, a P&L that is a mess if they are an accountant that cares about doing quality work. So if your books are a mess and your accountant is still doing your taxes, then chances are you're working with a budget accountant and they're going to just do whatever it takes to get it done, but probably not with any attention to detail, with any focus on trying to maximize your tax savings. Because frankly, from their perspective, they're going, well, if you're not going to care about the financials of your business, I'm not going to stress about it because I got to knock out 100, 200, 300, 400 tax returns this season, depending on how big the firm is that you work with. So there's a lot of things a bookkeeper can do wrong. Accountants can screw a lot of things up too, but an experienced tax accountant or tax preparer, at least someone who's just filing the tax returns, getting the tax returns submitted, those processes are fairly repeatable. And especially if they work with a lot of small businesses and individuals, it's going to look the same for a lot of their clients every year. But bookkeeping, it's different. And there's an attention to detail that needs to be there on a monthly basis. It's not a once a year compliance thing. This is an every single month it needs to get done. And so I want to just kind of help you to understand here that, okay, if your accountant's looking at your books and even if they look clean, if you're paying a bookkeeper that's inexperienced, that's undercharging and rushing through their work, that has too many clients and hasn't scaled up a team, doesn't have good systems and processes, isn't organized, there's like major mistakes that can happen that your accountant will never know. And if you're not paying attention, you'll never know, but can have huge implications on your tax return. So for instance, let's say your bookkeeper makes a mistake recording your revenue. So let's say they have some revenue or they see a deposit hit the bank account and they go, okay, that looks like income, so I'm going to put it under the income section of the P&L. But if they haven't checked with you or didn't do their due diligence, maybe that deposit was actually you transferring money back into the business, or maybe it was a loan from a family friend that they misconstrued as business revenue. Well, now your tax bill is going to go up on money that you shouldn't be paying taxes on, right? That revenue should not go under income because only the revenue that you should be taxed on is going to go under the income section. And now your balance sheet is also messed up because now that loan isn't there, or whether it's coming from you or someone else. Now you're not tracking that loan on the balance sheet, which could also reduce the amount of interest payments you can write off on the P&L. So it becomes a really big issue for your accountant to file your taxes with, because they have to assume that the bookkeeper has put all the income in the revenue section and done it properly. And that sounds like, well, it's kind of a silly mistake. No, a bookkeeper wouldn't do that. We see that stuff all the time from other bookkeepers because they don't have good processes, they have too many clients, all the things I said earlier, and they just don't have that attention to detail a lot of the times because they're not charging enough to warrant doing that much detail. And if you're not going to find out and the accountant's not going to find out, then whoops, moving on. And I'm not saying bookkeepers do this on purpose, but this is why it always kind of blows my mind that business owners think their accountant is more important, when in reality, like, your accountant's very likely not going to catch that. They're not going to go through and scrutinize your books at the end of the year. And if they're only looking at your business financials once a year to file your taxes, then they have no way of getting to know and understand the types of transactions that are moving through your business, which your bookkeeper should. But if you're paying a cheap bookkeeper or someone who's not very good at it or not really qualified to do it, they're not going to catch it either unless you're really scrutinizing your books as well. Because otherwise, you're the only other person that's going to recognize what the transactions are that are moving through your business and where they should go. Unless your bookkeeper's asking, then they're just guessing at that point. And so another thing that a bookkeepers do, and we see this all the time, is expenses, right? So if your bookkeeper accidentally put a large expense into profit distribution, maybe they see an expense and they go, you know what? This looks like a personal expense for the business owner. I'm going to put it under profit distribution. And maybe they don't ask you whether or not it's a business expense. They just put it there. And again, if you're not paying attention and you don't know, that's a massive business expense that now you're not going to get to write off. It's going to inflate your profit, and that means you're going to have a bigger tax bill. Again, your accountant is likely not going to catch something like that. So they're going to file your taxes assuming all the expenses are on the P&L the way they should be. And again, if you're not looking over what your bookkeeper's doing and they're not looking over it, then whatever's on your P&L is whatever's on your P&L, and they're going to file your taxes based on that. So these are just kind of two examples that really aren't that uncommon, where when you're paying for cheap bookkeeping, and especially if you as the business owner aren't paying attention and looking over what the bookkeeper is doing, these are things that could happen, that could have happened over and over again for years past, and you and your accountant never know. And you're sitting there putting more value on what your accountant's doing instead of going, do I really trust my bookkeeper? Are they really doing a good job? Are they really as organized as I need them to be? Are they communicating with me and letting me know when they're unsure of where something should go on the P&L or balance sheet? And so these are the things that, like, again, are really important for kind of profitability, right? Like, any money that shows up on your P&L and profit, or any money that you save that normally you would have sent to the state or federal government for taxes, any money that now gets to stay in your bank account, that's essentially profit. And I think that's a mistake a lot of business owners make, is looking at accounting as a function of compliance and not as a function of, or like as a profit center, like as and honestly, I don't blame business owners, because most accounting firms look at their work solely from the standpoint of compliance and not looking at their work as a value add, as a profit center for their clients' businesses. We've been doing that at Evolve Finance since the very beginning, but and I do think more firms are catching on to this. But I think at the end of the day, when it comes to your bookkeeping, when it comes to your financial reporting, most accounts at the end of the year are going to be too busy and too stressed and too overwhelmed to scrutinize your books. And they're essentially going to say, if you don't care how good your bookkeeping is, as long as there's something there, that's what I'm going to go off of. So that's where the responsibility does kind of come down on you as the business owner to make sure you're giving your accountant what they need in order to, at the very minimum, file your taxes on time and file them as accurately as possible, where they have true accurate data around how much revenue your business generated and what your true business expenses were. Then that's at a minimum what you want to set your accountant up to do. But also, if you want to do tax planning, if you're making good money in your business and your business is profitable, then your bookkeeper is even more important, because if they're keeping up with your books throughout the year and you can trust every month that it's accurate, that it's on time, that they're not making a mess of things, then it allows your accountant to go and look at the state of your business throughout the year, so they can put tax strategies into place throughout the year that will make sense for saving you money on taxes. And when I say make sense, because they're getting accurate financial data, they can really assess, like, is the timing right to put a certain tax strategy in place to help you save money at the end of the year for taxes. So I think I've made my point here. Again, your accountant, their ability to do good quality tax work for your business is going to be affected by how good or how accurate your books are. And that's just something I really wanted to drive home here, because it's not just about the P&L, because I think a lot of the time business owners go, is my revenue there? Are my expenses there? Cool. My accountant should have everything they need. But the balance sheet is a really underrated part of a business's financials that even a lot of bookkeepers neglect, that they don't pay attention to. And a lot of the times it's because they just don't understand it. A lot of bookkeepers will just go, the balance sheet's more of the accountant's stuff, so I'll let them figure it out if it seems off. And if you are running payroll, if you have benefits for your employees or even for yourself, if you have loans, if you have multiple partners, if you are moving money in and out of your business to your personal accounts, all these things have a tremendous impact on your equity, on your liabilities, on your assets. These are all really important things that affect your tax return and can keep audits from happening in your business. And again, a lot of accountants are just like kind of guessing in some of those areas, because a lot of the times the balance sheets they're getting from bookkeepers are not that great. So they kind of make their best assessment, make some adjustments based on what they think and go off of that. And there's really no reason for that. They should be able to trust that everything on the balance sheet is correct and shouldn't have to just guess and make these kind of sweeping adjustments at the end of the year and just hope it's close enough. So that's the other thing, is if your bookkeeper doesn't really understand the balance sheet and the effect it has on your tax return and your ability to save money on taxes and audit proof your business, then you're not working with the right bookkeeper. So there is one thing here that I think a lot of business owners tell themselves then when they're thinking about the quality, like, how good a bookkeeper do I really need? And a lot of the times it's the excuse I hear is, well, my business is simple. And while that could be true, because sometimes a business owner will tell us that, like, let's say we're talking to a prospective client and they go, oh, my books are pretty simple, so it should be pretty easy for you guys. I'd say 80% of the time it is not simple. Doesn't mean it's not overly complicated and it's not something we can handle, but it's there's way more going on than the business owner understands, because they're not a bookkeeper. They don't know what goes into business accounting. And so they just assume, I got some bank accounts, some credit cards, and I do my thing. But most of the time, especially if you're a business making 6-7 figures a year in revenue, it's not going to be that simple. There's lots of little things that need to be done from a bookkeeping standpoint to keep the books accurate and up to date so your accountant can do really good work. And honestly, after almost 12 years of looking at the books for small businesses, really only a handful have been super simple, where maybe the business generates their revenue from just a handful of clients that write them really big checks and they don't really have a team, just some basic expenses, and it's done. But that's usually not going to be larger businesses that have that sort of simplicity. It's going to be businesses doing less than $100,000 a year. But even then, we've seen businesses, doing less than $100,000 a year who create a ton of unnecessary complexity and end up just with really messy bookkeeping because the business owner is opening too many accounts. They're collecting money in too many different ways. And when you don't understand what goes into properly tracking the money in bookkeeping software across all these accounts, then you go, well, yeah, I'm just collecting money and putting it in bank accounts. But there's processes here, not just for a compliance standpoint, but also if you want financial analysis, if you want to be able to actually assess the profitability of your business. The messier your financial accounts are, and the more stuff you have going on, the harder it is for your bookkeeper to do that, especially if they're not a very skilled or experienced bookkeeper, or they just don't know your industry, right? Maybe they're a fine bookkeeper, but they work in too many different industries and they don't really specialize in your industry. Then chances are your books are not going to be as easy as you think they are. So now the reason it's so hard to find a good bookkeeper is because of what I just said. Most bookkeepers don't niche down into a specific industry or market. So especially because a lot of bookkeepers work at accounting firms where the accounting firm goes, yes, you're a business owner, we can do your taxes. But they're not concerned with the type of business that you have, because from a tax return standpoint, they probably have a team of accountants that know where to pull the revenue and the expenses from a P&L and file your taxes from. But the bookkeepers in every industry that they work in, they have to figure out the software, the types of financial accounts, the way to categorize things for that particular industry. And that's almost impossible to be an expert across all the different types of business industries that they might be working on. The books for a restaurant versus the books for an online business versus the books for a manufacturing company are all going to be very different. And especially if you as the business owner want to be able to glean insights from your profit and loss statement and your financial reports, then the way your bookkeeper puts that data together is going to be so dependent on how well they know your business model, how well they know your industry. And that's the problem, is a lot of bookkeepers can do a really mediocre job of categorizing and doing the books for a variety of different businesses instead of getting really, really good at doing the books for a very specific niche of businesses. And again, you don't need to get certifications to be a bookkeeper. It's not like becoming a CPA or an enrolled agent. It's just like, you say you can do bookkeeping. All right, I guess you're a bookkeeper. And especially with how much AI-oriented bookkeeping we're seeing out there. Again, that is a very compliance-minded standpoint where you're looking at your bookkeeping as simply just get the data in and then I'll let my accountant worry about it. But most people want to save money on their taxes. They just don't see the connection between the quality of their bookkeeping and how that maximizes their ability to save money on taxes because their accountant actually has an accurate picture. And so again, if your bookkeeper doesn't understand your niche, isn't very systematized, isn't organized because they're dealing with a ton of different kinds of businesses, which makes it hard for them to get organized and to get systematized because they're pretty much figuring out every new business that comes their way from figuring out from scratch instead of, like at Evolve Finance. We have systems, we have processes that when we bring a new client on, boom, we're good to go. And our team knows exactly what to do, what to look out for, and how to get the work done. And we're anal retentive at Evolve Finance. We're super organized in that regard. But it's because we've niched down that we've been able to really onboard new clients really well, really accurately, get a new client up and going and get their books accurate right from the start, have our bookkeeping team maintain the books really accurately throughout the year, and then just get lots of compliments from accountants when they get super clean books from our team every year with detailed notes and even things we're telling the accountant to look out for, like, hey, just as a heads up, these things were on the P&L or balance sheet that you need to look at. If the client hasn't told you, I'm telling you now, please go figure it out with them. But a lot of our clients are working with us on the accounting side. So our tax team already has access to all that data. But that's where it's not only does it make it easier for you at the end of the year when your bookkeeper knows what they're doing, but it just makes things so much smoother when your bookkeeper is organized, when they're proactive, when they're on top of these types of things. And again, I think a lot of business owners just think, we've had, let's say, clients that work with us and we've been the only bookkeeping team they've ever worked with. And then they go, oh, okay, well, things are probably pretty clean here. I'm going to go find, an overseas bookkeeper or someone cheaper and let them just continue to do what Evolve Finance has done. And they go do that. And then their books are a mess. Usually their accountant goes, what do you want me to do with this? Why have your books deteriorated? How am I supposed to file your taxes? And then the business owner, when they start paying attention to their books again, realizes, oh, this is nowhere near what Evolve Finance was doing. And then they come back, we clean things up, and they stick around for a really long time after that. But again, if you don't value your the financial accuracy of your books, of your financial reports, that's a red flag for me, like especially as someone who's done a lot of business advising and advised a lot of online business owners and a lot of them very successful business owners. That's a red flag when you're not prioritizing your bookkeeping because number one, you're probably not thinking about your business from a financial perspective because if you don't really care about the quality of your bookkeeping, then you don't care about the quality of your financial reporting. And if you don't care about your financial reporting, that means you're probably not looking at your financial reports. And if you're running a business without staying in touch with your financial data, you're going to have a hard time growing your business, let alone sustaining growth in any sort of profitable way. And you're also going to have a much more stressful time trying to fix issues in your business as they come up, let alone even being aware of there being financial issues fast enough to take care of them because you're not looking at your finances. And just given how competitive the small business world is, at least right now in this economy, knowing your numbers is a competitive advantage because it means you can stay more profitable than your competitors. And if you can stay more profitable than your competitors, you're going to have more cash available to invest in your business and help it grow. And at least in my 11 years in the online business space or the modern small business world, it's never been more important to have cash available from your profit to invest back in the business if you want to try to scale and grow faster than your competitors. Now, the other red flag here is if you don't really care about your financial data because your accountant is doing the bare minimum, right? Because you're just like, oh, they just seem to take whatever I give them and just get it done. Like I said earlier in this episode, then it means your accountant probably isn't doing a lot to save you on taxes. Again, then you're only doing compliance where it's like, all right, I'm going to put the numbers in. I don't even know if the numbers are accurate, but this is what you're giving me. We're going to put this into all the boxes on the form. Great. Your taxes are done. This is what you owe. Now pay me, right? Like if you care about your business and care about making money and care about maximizing the take-home dollars that you can keep to invest in your business or pay yourself personally, like not only is that a red flag for you, it's a red flag for the accountant you chose because not only does your bookkeeper suck now, but you're also working with an accountant who doesn't really care. They're just getting it done for you. And I think that's not a great mindset for any business owner that's trying to take their business seriously and wants to grow their business and make as much money as they can. Because not only for themselves, but the more profitable and the more cash you have available for your business, the more you can take care of your team, the more you can make investments in your business. And if you have an accountant that's not even trying to save you money, because if all they're doing is collecting all your documents when tax time comes along, they're not going to be able to do much for you in terms of saving you money on taxes anyways. And that's fine. There's certain firms where all they do is pump through tax returns because there's a lot of small businesses out there that don't make that much profit. They don't have a lot of tax savings opportunities. But if you have a profitable business, if you're making six figures or more a year in profit, that is a big opportunity to get your books cleaner, to get a better accountant who does tax planning and can really save you some money on your taxes. We're talking for our clients alone at Evolve Finance, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars a year and tax savings for some of our clients, especially the more profitable our clients are, the more there's opportunity for that. And I think a lot of business owners just don't realize those opportunities are there. But the third red flag here is a lot of business owners don't even realize their books are screwed up because they're not looking at it, right? It's one thing to not look at your financial reports, but if you do look at your financial reports, a lot of the times that's when the business owners go, this doesn't look right. This doesn't make sense. And that's when they catch mistakes. That's when they catch issues and can actually, figure out if, I can correct my bookkeeper on a few things, or, my bookkeeper is negligent and have no idea how to really do the books for my business. I need to go find a good bookkeeper. And a lot of the times that's how we get our new clients at Evolve Finance is the business owner finally starts paying attention to what's going on with their books and they realize my bookkeeper does not know what they're doing. I actually just talked to a prospective client a couple of weeks ago who was like, I've been working with my bookkeeper for a really long time and they're great. And we go, okay, let's take a look at their QuickBooks account and see what's going on there. And there were a lot of issues with the books that our tax team went like, we can't do your taxes because we can't trust the data that's there. And we are a firm that tries to be really honest. If someone comes to us with a set of books and they're really good, we'll tell them and we go, hey, we'd love your business. But just so you know, your bookkeeper is doing a great job, or, hey, your tax accountant is actually put some great tax plans in place. We can't do a whole lot more for you. If you want a better experience and you want some of the extra pieces to our service that a lot of other accountants don't offer, then great, come on over. But we're not going to try to tell you your previous team is doing a bad job if in fact they are doing a good job. But this was the situation with this prospective client where we're like, you're not paying very much. And there's a reason why you're not paying very much, because the books are a mess and there's no way your tax accountant is going to truly be able to really get a full picture of what's going on in your business given the way your books are being done. And that's the piece that's hard about being a business owner and dealing with the accounting side and the finance side, is if you don't have a lot of experience with this stuff or you avoid it, then you're just kind of trusting that your bookkeeper is doing a good job and that, your accountant's doing a good job. But business owners they understand more about their financials than they realize, because once they look at them, they can tell when something's off. When they go, my revenue should be higher, or, hey, I had this loan from earlier in the year. Where is that? Or I've been running payroll for 4 months and I don't see payroll anywhere. There's these things that once they start to take a look and realize, maybe I should be communicating with my bookkeeper more, or maybe they should be communicating with me more, or maybe it's time I find another bookkeeper that cares about their work more. And again, as the business owner, it's up to you. If you care about your finances, you'll go find a bookkeeper that cares as much about them as well. But if it's something you don't value, then you're likely going to get a low value overall accounting experience. And if you're running a 6 or 7 figure or bigger business, then we gotta teach you how to value this part of your business a little more. Someone's got to explain it to you, because you're missing out on putting cash in your pocket. So that's what I got for you today. Again, accountants, so important. They can do such great work for you. But again, your accountant can only do so much if your financial reporting, if your bookkeeping is a hot mess. If you want to learn more about how we can help you with your bookkeeping and taxes, go check us out at evolvefinance.com. And if you want to learn more about our Profit Pillars system, which is a great way to help you understand your numbers better, you can check out my book, Profit Pillars, anywhere books are sold online. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you in the next episode.